Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. All right, let's get into our first story. And this one's a masterclass in dealing with you don't need that customers, the ones who think they know more than the expert they just called for help. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Customer thought he knew more than me. I'm proud of my hard-won customer service ninja skills. Usually I can take even the most belligerent fellow and make friends with him. But this guy? I lost it on this guy. Customer calls in to see if we have a part they're looking for. Gets my coworker Jackie on the line. I'm doing other things at the time, but she comes and gets me, asking me to take the call. By the way, it's not that she couldn't handle him, just that I happen to be the in-house subject matter expert for trailer wiring. Jackie's kick butt, but I digress. Hey, OP, can you talk to this customer? They want something. Oh, that's real specific, Jackie. Thanks for that. I try to make her laugh a little, but this guy clearly frustrated her. Well, I think it's for an adapter or wiring. I asked for the year, make, and model of his car, but he wouldn't give me a straight answer. Okay, so maybe just an adapter then? All he would say is it was a very generic part and would merge the taillights with the brake light. What? Exactly. Oh boy, okay. Call display says he's calling from a trailer place across town, so why is he calling here? Is it some rare and exotic part he's looking for? I take a deep breath and hit the blinking button on the phone. Once more unto the breach, dear friends. Hello, sir. Thank you for calling. I understand that you were looking for some wiring or an adapter. I'm just looking for something that will take my taillights and merge them so that the brake light will light up. If you don't understand what he's talking about, it's not you. That sentence makes no sense. Okay. I take a second to form a strategy for figuring out what he actually needs. Can we start with the year, make, and model of the vehicle? You don't need that. It's just a very generic part. I hate you don't need that, vermin. Sorry, so does your vehicle already have trailer wiring installed? Yes. So then you're looking for some kind of adapter to take the signal from your car's trailer wiring and change it from like a 5-pin connection to a 4-pin? Let me go over this from the beginning. It's very simple. And that was it. Refused to answer questions, gave me the "you don't need that" line, and now the big condescending act? Welcome, sir, to my crap list. He continues, there are like 5 wires in the car. I'll skip his exhaustive description of a typical car's wiring, and they all go to a black box, so I need the converter that takes the wires from there. Okay, when you say black box, that could mean anything in the car. Are you referring to the trailer wiring kit? That's right, spoken with a mocking no-duh tone. And is that black box already installed? No, that's what I'm looking for. Oh, I say. Insert kettle whistling cartoon sound effect here. I look around the room. Jackie's sitting next to me listening. Fred's helping a couple of people at the counter. Georgia's stocking shelves. I decide it's worth it. You could, in theory, call it yelling. I mean, I was just talking, but I was loud enough to have everyone's attention in the room, and I didn't sound happy. Okay, forget the in theory part. I guess I was actually yelling. So when I asked you if the vehicle had trailer wiring installed and you said yes, what you meant to say is no. Isn't that right? He's startled and just mutters, yes. So you're looking for a trailer wiring kit? Yes, but I just need a generic. So that means, I cut him off to continue ranting, I do in fact need to know the year, make, and model of your vehicle, don't I? Because we need to know if you need the version that draws battery power or not, don't we? Okay, he mutters. He finally answers my questions. I find the most expensive version of what he's looking for, assuming that since he's calling from a trailer place and they've got a ton of these that he was just bargain hunting. Hopefully that'll make him go away. We have 2 in stock. You can come on in and pick up that kit anytime. Thanks for calling. Click. That made it official. Time to move on to the next job. Use this one up, apparently. Of course, when I came clean to my manager about the incident the next day, she just laughed, so... You didn't yell. You gave the standard service needed to get through to a condescending jerk who wouldn't respond any other way. Some customers have to be shut down so they can shut up and get the kind of customer service you're trying to give them to help them in the first place. And our second story. The tale of the ungrateful rider, bikes, lies, and petty justice. A few years ago, I worked as a cycle courier for a food delivery company, and I became fairly well known among the other riders. I was the guy who would fix and bodged bikes for the cost of parts only, and I was able to get parts cheap. However, some people would try to avoid paying for them. There was one guy, let's call him CB, who had 2 kids and a pregnant girlfriend expecting their third. He was using a bike lock that cost £1, which, to be honest, was rubbish. These locks could be snapped with just a little tug, which obviously isn't ideal when your bike's your livelihood. Since I was upgrading my lock, I decided to give him my old D-lock, worth about £20. A month later, his bike was stolen while it was locked up. He kept mentioning that I had given him the lock, and at that point, his third child was about to be born. He asked if he could borrow one of mine, but I wasn't comfortable lending him one. My bikes were expensive, with the cheapest one being worth £700 new. However, I'd seen an old Raleigh bike on Gumtree for £70, so I made him a deal. I'd buy the bike outright for him if he could pay me back £10 a week, since the job paid weekly and he worked about 30 hours a week. I'd also lend him £30 for bills, so that was £10 a week for 10 weeks. I checked out the bike, bought it, and gave it a service. Despite being nearly 30 years old, it was in fantastic condition. That model's known for being incredibly robust, and it only needed some new cables, which I replaced. Everything else was in perfect shape. I liked the bike myself, so I asked him to let me know if he ever decided to sell it, as I'd buy it back. 2 days later, I received a text with a long list of things broken on the bike, including things that would be impossible for a 30-year-old bike. I knew it was a lie and that he was just complaining because the bike was old. CB: Hey, the bike's terrible. It needs, long list, fixing. I'm selling it, but I know you said you might buy it back, so let me know or I'll just sell it. Me: That's strange. I checked it all the other day and it was perfect. I'll be surprised if that's all broken already, but I'll take it back. Let's meet at time at location. CB: Okay, are you bringing cash or do you want to transfer me the money? I'm asking £100 for it. Me: Are you serious? You can't charge me for it. You haven't paid me for the bike yet, so it's technically still mine. I only paid £70 for it, so no, I'm not paying you anything. If you don't want the bike, just give it back and buy one with your own money. I'm not lending you any more cash. CB: I'll just sell it online then. After a little more back and forth, he finally agreed to give me the bike back. When I got it, nothing was broken. I kept it for over a year before selling it to a friend. That bike's still over 30 years old, all original except for the tires, brake pads, and one replacement wheel. When he returned the bike, he had my lock with him. I mentioned I thought the thieves had cut it. He admitted that when his bike was stolen, he'd been using the £1 lock instead of the one I'd given him because he thought my lock was too heavy. But then he went around telling people that it was my fault his bike got stolen because I'd given him a faulty lock. Oh, and I never got the £30 back that I lent him. A couple months later, I found out that he was telling people it was my fault he couldn't work as a cycle courier because he didn't have a bike. Well, at least the bike ended up in the hands of someone who appreciated it and took care of it. You might not have gotten all your money back, but you dodged a long-term headache by cutting ties with someone who clearly doesn't understand the concept of gratitude or personal responsibility. Lesson learned: no good deed goes unpunished when you're dealing with someone who can't even take accountability for their own actions. You deserve massive props for your patience and generosity, way more than this guy ever deserved your help. And our last story. A lifetime of hard work almost stolen, but the boss didn't see me coming. I work with a 56-year-old man named Tim who, while being one of the kindest, hardest working people I know, isn't the brightest when it comes to handling money or legal matters. Tim's incredibly easy to manipulate, and I strongly suspect he struggles with reading or is possibly illiterate. He's the type of person who would rather trust a handshake than deal with paperwork, which makes him a prime target for exploitation. And that's exactly what's happening. My boss is a financial disaster of a human being. He plays fast and loose with money, constantly dodging collections, taxes, and government debts to the tune of over $500,000. He lives a lavish lifestyle on company money, somehow skating by with his charismatic small-town good old boy persona. But behind that charm is a man drowning in debt who'll screw over anyone to keep himself afloat, including Tim. A while back, my boss sold Tim an older company truck for cash but never transferred ownership to him. Tim sold his own vehicles to afford this truck, believing it was now his. In reality, the title still belongs to my boss, which means Tim has no legal claim to it. On top of that, Tim pays for all repairs out of pocket, while my boss enjoys driving around in a newer, more expensive car bought with the money Tim gave him. That should have been the first red flag, but what's happening now is so much worse. For 30 years, Tim has lived in a small, fully paid-off cabin in a remote, mountainous area. It's been his home and safe haven with low property taxes and no mortgage. He's happy there. Or at least he was. A couple months ago, our boss started telling everyone that Tim was selling his cabin. We were all confused. Tim was financially stable and had no reason to leave, but then Tim let something slip. He planned on investing the money into the company. What's the boss planning to do with it? Build himself a giant storage facility / cabin under the guise of a company project. The catch, Tim would be given a small loft inside it to live in, paying rent, while also maintaining the property for my boss. Yes, you read that right. Tim's about to hand over the only real asset he owns, become financially dependent on the boss, and end up paying rent on a place he doesn't own. In one move, my boss is going to drain Tim of every dollar he has, leave him with nothing, and still profit off of him. I had to do something, but had to be smart about it. I wanted to tell Tim to run far, far away from this deal, but I knew I couldn't. If I went to him directly, he'd immediately tell the boss it was me. I also knew the boss had too much influence in the community. If I spoke up, I'd be fired in retaliation, which I could prove is illegal, but good luck fighting that battle against a guy who has a network of enablers. Blacklisted from future jobs in this small town, left with no way to help Tim at all. So instead, I contacted Adult Protective Services. While APS usually helps elderly people, Tim's situation qualifies as financial exploitation. He's not fully literate, making it easier for someone like my boss to deceive him into bad financial decisions. Since the boss is in a position of power over him, it adds another layer of coercion and manipulation. APS was very interested in the case. Once APS got involved, things started moving quickly. They reached out to Tim and started an investigation into my boss's financial dealings. I don't know all the details yet, but I do know that legal action is being considered against him. More importantly, Tim hasn't sold his cabin. He's still in his home, still financially stable, and still unaware that I was the one who made sure he wasn't scammed out of everything he owned. The boss, on the other hand, he's suddenly a lot quieter. No more bragging about his big cabin project, no more pressuring Tim to sell. Something tells me he knows the walls are closing in, and frankly, I can't wait to watch him go down. Wow, what a jerk. The kind of shameless manipulation that makes your blood boil, taking advantage of a man who's worked his whole life just so he can keep funding his fake rich lifestyle? Disgusting. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.